ZAID Keldani. We secured him yesterday, and we had really wanted to get someone from the Ontario Power Group, I think it's called OPG, who are building the SMRs at Darlington. And so he's going to tell us about that. And they're also doing some work in Alberta. So you can understand exactly what is going on in these locations. ZAID, I hope you are there because you're up.
Can I maybe get an audio?
Here he comes. Here he comes. Here he comes. There you go. We see you.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Perfect. And can you see my slides?
Not yet.
Perfect. So just in the meantime, maybe I can jump in with a quick introduction. I want to thank you, Alex and team, for putting the program together. And I'm very happy to see that nuclear is part of the wider discussion on energy. That's exactly reflective of the way we see the energy mix in the future. We believe in a balanced energy mix where you have the reliable baseload running 24/7, complemented by renewable and storage, and all of them working together to get us to a low carbon society one day in the future. My name is ZAID KELDANI. I am a Senior Manager SMR Development with Ontario Power Generation. And myself and my team, what we do is we are looking at SMR opportunities outside of Ontario. So we are leveraging that learnings from Darlington, the Darlington nuclear project, and thinking how can we apply those in a pan-Canadian approach? What does a deployment outside of Ontario look like from a policy perspective and from the economy perspective, and all these pieces coming together? If we jump over to the next slide, just want to introduce OPG really quickly. Ontario Power Generation, or OPG for short, is a government-owned entity. We are owned by the province of Ontario. We are the largest energy generation company in the province, and we run a diverse portfolio of thermal and non-thermal assets. As part of the thermal assets, we run two generating stations, nuclear generating stations. That's the Pickering generating station, about 30 kilometers east of Toronto. And then the 60 kilometers east of Toronto, we run the Darlington nuclear generating station. And when I introduce myself and introduce OPG, I always like to tell people that I live about 10 minutes from the Darlington station. My wife is a teacher. She teaches maybe around 7 to 8 minutes away from the Pickering station. And the reason I say that, I just want to paint this picture in your mind that nuclear stations are not isolated somewhere in the corner of the province away from people. It is part of the society that we live in. And when I introduce myself, I always say I'm a nuclear neighbor, or nuclear is my neighbor. My son was born 3 weeks ago. We live very close to the plant. It's safe. We're not planning to move anywhere. This is where we grew up and we're staying. So there's a lot happening at OPG, especially what we'll be talking about, the Darlington new nuclear project. And I'll take you through the journey, how we got there. If we go over to the next slide, before we jump into the big project, the DNNP and the first and the G7 and all these exciting things, the first of a kind, I always like to tell people, why are we able to do this? Why are we able, as a country, as a company, able to sign up for first of a kind project? And when you think about it, I can distill it down in 3 core principles. The first one is operational excellence. Over the past 6 decades, we've shown the world that we're able to operate nuclear safely, reliably, operating 24/7 with no issues, no incidents. So we've proven the safety and the operational excellence that we talk about. So we have an example, a living example that we can always reference and stand by. The second is the project excellence. We have shown the world that we can deliver large-scale complex projects on schedule, on budget. And like my colleagues referenced in the panel just before me, the Darlington refurbishment project is that example. It's a $12.8 billion investment and a project that started in 2016, and we're heading into 2026, wrapping up that project. It went on budget, on schedule, and in some ways, it actually went ahead of schedule. Unit 3 that we returned to service late last year went 140 days ahead of schedule back online. And this tells you that the supply chain is strong, the partners are strong, and the lessons learned and the incorporation of these lessons learned from unit to unit to unit is very strong. And the project management from planning to definition and all the way to execution is also very strong. The third pillar that allows us to do what we're doing is the social license that we have gained over the years. We're very proud to have very strong relationships with the First Nations and the around our stations, mainly the Williams Treaties First Nation. We also have very good relationships with the communities and the public around us. They're free to come forward with concerns and questions, and they participate in the hearings all the time. And we are very committed to sharing this information and bring them forward along with us on the journey. Before I move over to the SMR discussion, I just want to also highlight on the screen here that you'll see the Pickering refurbishment project. This is a recent addition. You probably saw some news last week that the province of Ontario gave us the green light to progress the refurbishment of Pickering, and that's a $26.78 billion investment to also extend Pickering and give Pickering a new life. So you can only imagine that how this is all looking like when we talk about new nuclear growth. We're thinking of SMRs, we're thinking of extending the existing generation, and of course, we're thinking of large nuclear in the east of Toronto, or east of Darlington too. If we go over to the next slide, then we can start talking about the nuclear or the SMR journey a bit more. Back in the late, just before 2020, OPG, we had the Darlington site. It was the only licensed site with an approved environmental assessment in the country. And we always saw this as an opportunity of we want to build something on it, whether it's large generation, SMRs, we want to invest in that site and make something good happen out of it. At the time, OPG decided to consider SMRs and kicked off a technology selection process that concluded by the end of 2021. And we selected the GE Hitachi BWRX technology as the preferred technology. From there, we went into a process just to validate the environmental assessment, to confirm that what we have licensed the site for still fits with that then envelope that we are proposing now. And then we formed our team. We work in a very interesting model when it comes to the project delivery, not that your traditional EPC, but this is something we call the Integrated Project Delivery, IPD. So we work very closely with, of course, OPG as the owner, GE Hitachi as the technology provider, Aecon as the construction company, and Atkins Realis as the architect engineer. We work very closely under one roof to make sure that we are delivering this project again on budget, on schedule. If we look at the next slide and the roadmap to the project, this gives you a sense of the timeline from when it became a project, when we got the thumbs up from the CNSC, that environmental assessment that we've done, still valid, still good for what we want to build. And fast forward to 2025, we had three big milestones, I should say. The first one, when the CNSC gave us the thumbs up to proceed with our construction. So we have a license to construct. And then a month later, we have the green light from the province, the FID, the final investment decision from the province to also begin construction. And then more recently, both the federal government and the provincial government stepped in, decided to take an equity stake in the project. And the federal government through the Canada Growth Fund and Ontario through the Building Ontario Fund gave us a total of $3 billion as, like I said, a stake in the project. Moving forward, our next big milestone, we have also, of course, licensing things to go through with the CNSC, a license to operate hopefully in 2028. And then by 2029 and early 2030s, will be done the construction of the first unit, and the first unit goes online by 2030. We're not building only one, but we're building 4 at Darlington. So the units 2, 3, and 4 are set to go online by 2034, 35, and 36. And we'll talk about more about the distancing, the 1-year gap between 2, 3, and 4. It's just the lessons learned that we got in the refurbishment project that we learned. If we do unit 1, learn from unit 1, and apply these learnings in units 2, 3, and 4, we can really see the project de-risked and a lot of efficiencies gained on cost and schedule. If we go to the next slide, we talk about a bit more why 4 units and why not 1. OPG wanted to go with SMRs in a fleet approach. Typically, a fleet, there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained from let's call them sister units or sibling units. There's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained in the construction, negotiation of contracts, and this is the same way that we view a fleet approach in a pan-Canadian way. We would love to see a build out across the country of SMRs, and then everyone who has an SMR is benefiting from these economies of scale. The 4 units that we're building at Darlington collectively will generate 1.2 gigawatt electric. That's enough to power 1.2 million homes. And you can imagine that's a lot of homes, a lot of businesses getting reliable, stable power. And in that, we are relying, of course, on the supply chain, our supply chain partners that we would be working very closely with on this deployment. So where is the project today? If we go over to the next slide, you'll be able to get a view of where we stand today. Construction, like I said, began in May of this year. We had all the contractors ready to go till we got the green light from the province and the CNSC. Before that, we had some activities on the site, what we call preparing the site activities, or we have a license to prepare site and allowed us to get some basic site work done. But the real excavation and real construction work began in May of this year. And you'll see that we have done some progress. There's a smaller image that from January of this year, and then you'll see another one, the big one, from September 2025. And I apologize if this is not a close enough view, but if you go on our website or just do a quick Google search of OPG DNNP or OPG SMRs, there is a landing page for the project, and there is a video, which is also on YouTube, that is a drone top view video that shows you the site layout and the activities today. And you'll see the good work the team has been doing and has done so far. Just quickly on the IPD, or the integrated project delivery, like I said, all partners work under one roof, working together, co-locating. And this is one of the lessons learned also we learned from global nuclear energy projects that did go over budget and over schedule, where, for example, the owner is not involved enough or the technology vendor is not involved enough. We wanted to make sure that we address this. And like I said earlier, get real learnings and the feedback from the Darlington refurbishment project, bring them over to the Darlington new nuclear project, so we have another success and a fabulous finish, what we call. If we look at the next slide, I just want to give you a bit of a view of how are we thinking of this pan-Canadian approach, and where have we been involved, where have we been active. Like Alex mentioned at the beginning, we have a partnership with Capital Power where we're exploring the feasibility of SMRs in Alberta, and we've been working on this feasibility assessment for the past 2 years. We're exploring what it means from an economy perspective, from a financing perspective, a policy framework, especially in Alberta, in a place like Alberta. They don't have nuclear generation today. We are building the foundation. We are building that ecosystem. The supply chain, how can you take a medium to small size business and bring them along the journey of becoming a nuclear qualified supplier so they can contribute and work alongside us. Saskatchewan, very similar. We've been very closely working with SaskPower on also enabling that early phase of work and helping them get up to speed for them to get to the timelines that they have set. Similarly with New Brunswick Power, we have a really good existing relationship. I know our subsidiary Laurentis Energy Partners is also active in working with them. And in the States, we have a relationship with Tennessee Value Authority. It's a collaboration agreement that also includes GE Hitachi to also explore or unpack this knowledge sharing when it comes to various projects in different jurisdictions. And we also have been keeping a close eye on what's happening at the global stage. Europe has been a really interesting place. There's always announcements from the UK, Sweden, Bulgaria. Almost every day, there's an announcement from Europe. And I think it all goes back to what we've been talking about. There's this realization that it cannot be done without nuclear energy. Nuclear energy has to become part of the energy mix, and the social license of the technology has been improving. And I think the industry has done a really good job promoting the safe use of radiation, medical isotopes, clean energy, And of course, when we have regulators like the CNSC and champions like academia who are educating and helping us with myth busting, the story is very, very compelling. So that's where we are and how we are thinking about this in a pan-Canadian approach. If you don't see your province in green on this image and this map, it's not the end of the world. We would love to be talking to you. We would love to be talking to the entire country and exploring what the feasibility of SMRs is like. And I just want to take this as a moment to extend an invite to each and everyone in the physical room or in the virtual room that we're more than happy to work with you if you're looking to learn about SMRs, if you're looking to just explore a bit more. If you haven't seen a nuclear power plant before, this is an open invitation to come and visit us at Darlington. We have run many tours in the past, whether it's tours of the SMR site, just a drive-by tour. We have a mock-up facility that you can see the insides of the reactor, a nuclear reactor. And we sometimes, based on the availability in the station, we're able to take tours inside the station. So if you're curious, if you're interested, please reach out. I'm more than happy to coordinate and work with you and see what we can get done. If we go to the next slide, this slide is a bit specific to the case of Ontario and OPG when we did the work with the Conference Board of Canada, understanding what is the economic benefits and impact for SMRs. We've done similar work with Conference Board of Canada and Capital Power for Alberta, and I know Saskatchewan has done a similar study also. So I'm not going to dive into the specifics of the numbers, but just to give you a scale of the numbers that we're talking about. Thousands of jobs created, billions in tax revenues, and billions in GDP impacts. And one of the things that we're very proud of here at OPG is we always have a priority to spend in country, in province. All the projects that I mentioned, the $20.9 billion for DNNP, the $26.7 billion for Pickering, the $12.8 billion in the Darlington refurbishment, over 90% spent in Canada, in country. And this is, even our supply chain is chasing that extra 10% because we want to maximize the benefit to Canada and the benefit to the supply chain and our partners. And when I talk about thousands of jobs, people often ask, how many people do you employ? How many people work at the site? These jobs are not just at OPG, but in the wider supply chain. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see how big the supply chain. We literally have hundreds and hundreds of suppliers based in Ontario, in Canada, and we're looking to expand that supply chain even larger, especially as we chase the 10 remaining percent of the 90% spend, and especially as we look outside of Ontario for deployments. We want to build local supply chains because we believe that's how successful projects become successful. That is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you again for having me here today. Thank you again for your attention. And I'm more than happy to take on any questions, whether now or later in the presentation. Alex, I'll look for you for your guidance.
Okay. There's a couple of questions in the chat, but I wanted to just throw it open to the room here. Everybody's been... Go ahead, Chief Sam. Someone... microphone's coming to you.
Thank you. So far, some great presentations. I appreciate the board, the panel discussion, and good to meet you virtually for sure. I'll take you up on that tour. It's something that I've been looking into, but I need more education myself. My First Nation also would like some education on this, and I believe the BC government and other governments that aren't partaking in this industry also need education. And speaking to education, it'd be good to have assistance from the federal government of Canada, even at that scale, to get the education out there across the country with municipalities, First Nations, governments, and what have you, to give us some tools so we could actually visit facilities like you and get educated and travel abroad. I want to see, there's pros and cons in my mind. There's water issues. Are they an issue? Is there technologies that don't use as much water? The waste was spoken to. Does that apply? Does that waste on that scale apply to SMRs? They're smaller scale. What else do I got here? So in regards to new technologies, I think this could be one of them. We do have a lot of dams here, and there's opinions here. Are they good or not? First Nations don't think they are. Not all of them. It takes an incredible amount of land base of traditional territories, and I think there might even be more proposed. But if this was a different opportunity that has 95%, more power generation, these are. I'm just looking for opportunities for the nations to participate, and this ain't happening overnight. This is going to take a couple few years of educating everybody who's interested in it. I know I am, but first need the education, and so does my nation moving forward. There's a lot of initiatives, I have personally for my nation I want to do, and food security being one of them, and reliable partner for year-round growing, and food sustainability, and job creation, mills. I don't have to talk about the economy, but it's not looking good. We need to replace it. I look at SMRs as potentially spreading the wealth throughout the region with smaller units, so that each communities potentially have a source of employment. I'm just thinking out loud here, but definitely I'd like to work with Alex and Guy to find the truth, to see where this technology is going. Very interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sam. And like I said, open invitation, happy to work with you and your nation. And I did see the presentation earlier from you and a young group of people that when you went to Spain. Very happy that this took place. And like I said, more than happy to hopefully coordinate something in the near future. And in the meantime, while we find the means to do so, also more than happy to work with you online. We have a lot of resources. We have a website that we created, Generations for Generations. It's an energy literacy module website that we can use. I sometimes host some Nuclear 101 presentations. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation. I'm a licensed engineer in nuclear engineering. I have a nuclear engineering degree, and I have a master's degree in radiation physics. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about. And like I said, happy to work with you on that.
Thanks. Thanks very much. I just want to echo what Wes Sam said, part of what he said before asking Gaetan and Guy or any of the other panelists if they want a closing comment. Why are we doing this? Why did we do this today? 2 reasons. One, some of the lead nations for FNCI wanted to learn more about nuclear. And they weren't thinking about whether or not there's a moratorium or not. They were interested in learning more about nuclear, and West Sam was one of them. And so that's number one. And number two is we have tough choices coming up in the province of BC. Whichever scenario you believe about future energy demand, we need more in the future, a lot more. And are we going to dam the Hamathko River, or are we going to build an SMR, or are we going to do wind and batteries or pump storage, or what? And the idea is we need to be informed about as informed as we can be about what those choices are, because none of them come for free. They all have impacts and risks. And so I think at FNCI we were thinking, well, one of the things we don't talk about is this, and that's silly. We should at least understand it. Maybe, as one of the people online said, Gloria, maybe it's not the best option. Well, that's fine, but let's come to that conclusion after we've considered it against all the other alternatives. So, Gaetan, Guy, anything you'd like to add at the end here, or are other speakers online? Go ahead.
Well, for me, I think
and you only get 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, it's we're leading the way in Canada in clean energy. We're a superpower already. We need 2 or 3 times more. So what you're doing here in BC, looking at all these options, and the leadership from people like Chief Wes and Chief Guy and all these folks that are really making this happen, to me, that's the big thing. And I would leave one challenge that we haven't talked about. Why not enriching uranium? And I know some of my colleagues over there will have some answers, but I think we should consider it too, because we'd be self-sufficient completely, the whole supply chain, including enrichment. We can't depend on the US and certainly not on Russia. But thank you for listening.
I think the reason why I'm here is simply curiosity. The Ontario Power Generation reached out to me to sit on their new nuclear review board, and I did for a couple of years, and then currently sit on Bruce Power's advisory panel on new nuclear. And so nuclear isn't going away. Ontario is a world leader. We want to learn from the world leaders, and so OPG, NB Power, we have a lot to learn in Saskatchewan, and of course Alberta, and hopefully BC comes along. Tomorrow is a big day for the Canadian Association for Small Modular Reactors, is releasing their white paper in Toronto tomorrow, so please stay tuned. But it's to broaden, I think, the support for meaningful and sustained engagement with Indigenous communities in Canada. And so we'll be reaching out to people like Chief Sam to sit on the Indigenous Advisory Council, and hopefully others that are like-minded in terms of this discussion. So I really enjoyed this today. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Online, who wants to go next?
I can go. Just really want to underscore the point that this is a very sobering moment for Canada. And the choices we make in this moment are critical. And I'm really happy that we're having this conversation with this group, because it tells me that at least people are open to those kind of strategic choices that we need to make. But we need to make them quickly. And time is not on our side. And the most interesting part I find on the nuclear side of things, in my mind right now, is that we've had this collaborative paradigm, as ZAID has said, with the US for a long, long time. But now, like with everything else, we've got to stick in our spokes where it's competitive and collaborative. And that should force us to be better. And so when I think about the off diesel point that was made earlier, that's us being better. I hope some of you are aware of the Watay Power Project that took 17 communities off diesel. We paid for it because we amortized the diesel out of the federal fiscal framework and put it down on that project. So there are different ways of financing these things. This can be very creative, but the fact of the matter is we should be chasing this. I think so in terms of, a sobering moment and us figuring this out, the other part of this is what's the prize? And the province of BC, in my mind, is poised to take advantage of the prize. There's a very strong geopolitical race going on right now for supremacy on AI, artificial intelligence, which is the biggest power suck coming forward in the history of the world. And the proxy wars between China and the US, and Canada has a role to play there because we got these amazing energy sources, and nuclear underneath that is critical. We can help the US, we can help ourselves. And the last thing is, I really like Gaetan's point. I really do. People don't, you may not know, Gaetan, you may want to come back on it, but this idea of enriched uranium, we got to find our competitive strengths. And that is certainly one of them in my mind. If we capture that, we are not, then we move away from the US in this push-pull war that we've got with them, or we get leverage with them. And I think we have to think about those things. But anyway, it's a moment in time, and I just want people to think that through as you kind of think about where Canada's going on this file. Thank you.
Thanks. Brian?
Yeah, just quickly, because as an industry here, we want to be on time, right? So I'll just say from an education point of view, and I put this in the chat, go to the CNSC site if you want education, basic information. It's really good for that. Also, I'd even reach out to the CNSC if you want them to visit you, at least virtually. They're open to that. And here at CNA, we have an Indigenous Relations Council that feeds into our policy and regulatory issues, and is also looking at we're underway in developing a Nuclear 101 for Indigenous communities that we would make widely available to anybody who wants it. You just have to contact us. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Arthur.
I'm on mute here. Great. So maybe one thing we didn't get the chance to talk about at all today, but it's probably particularly relevant for the rights holders in the region is about the job side of things. So obviously ZAID here is a trained nuclear engineer, and he has a master's. A lot of jobs at these plants don't look like that. A lot of them will look like you getting your 2-year power engineering diploma, or maybe it's a chemical technician. There's a lot of chemistry involved in managing these types of plants. There's some other sort of skilled trade for electricians and whatnot, and what that kind of job composition looks like. What goes into the workforce picture. So it's one of the biggest advantages that can face these communities is this is what the actual stable workforce for generations looks like. If you're running one of these things for 80 years, you could be at the case where it's a parent and then their child ends up working at the same plant, potentially even in the same role. So understanding that, I think, is one thing that's definitely, when you're sort of looking at education, like what does that look like? What kind of local colleges would be delivering it? What, how would that play into things in terms of a pipeline from high school to potentially these post-secondary type programs? I'm very excited in my own lab. I'll be having a Cree engineer in chemical engineering. He'll be working with me on a master's doing some fuel development work here at the University of Regina. Really excited to have him within my research group. So there's definitely a position for rights holders in the when you're looking at sort of university education. Very, very exciting. But a lot of the positions are not necessarily that. A lot of them will be what you would think of as a 2-year power engineering type program to be running one of these plants, with additional sort of on the job training involved. So that's definitely something that we didn't get to talk about at all today. But when I do nuclear 101s, I like to kind of emphasize a little bit. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you, ZAID, for your jumping in at the last minute yesterday. And that was very interesting to learn exactly what you're up to. And all the panelists for your time and for being here and for being online. And for everybody for sticking with this. And there's one more session to go after the break. And just to pick up on Jay's point, it's a moment in time. And Dave Nicolation is going to kick us off and his view of what this moment in time is all about. So you don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss it. So stick with us. We got, and then we have Robert Johnson talking about our decarbonization in Asia work.